You think you can humiliate us and get away with it? Lucy Thompson whispered, barely audible over the soft hum of the penthouse air conditioning, her small hands clutching a crumpled napkin as she peered from behind the tall velvet curtains. The golden afternoon sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished marble floor and the Persian rug that smelled faintly of sandalwood and lemon polish, while her mother, Margaret, moved silently among the gleaming silver trays and crystal glasses, arranging them with painstaking care as if she could vanish into the elegance of the space itself, unnoticed by the powerful figures who lounged in their tailored suits and designer heels. Richard Ellis sitting arrogantly in his leather chair, fingers tapping the mahogany table as he glanced over the documents with a smug smile. The room filled with the faint clink of ice in glasses and the soft murmur of conversation. Yet to Lucy's trained eyes, every slight gesture, every sharp glance told a story of disdain, of arrogance, and of underestimation, the kind of details her mother had drilled into her from years of quiet observation, reminding her that true strength often revealed itself not in noise but in patience, in the careful gathering of knowledge before action. And today, Lucy had noticed something, a misaligned signature, a faint smudge, an inconsistency that only someone paying attention could see, a tiny flaw in the pristine facade that could unravel the web of deception if handled correctly. And as she pressed her small frame closer to the wall, taking in the scent of polished leather, the faint sweetness of champagne, and the subtle floral hints from the women's perfume, she felt the familiar mix of fear and anticipation, a tight coil in her chest, reminding her that even in the most luxurious of prisons, the truth had a way of finding its voice, a whisper that could echo louder than any shout. And she remembered her mother's words: observe, wait, act with precision. And with a deep breath that carried the weight of years of watching, learning, and listening, Lucy prepared herself, fingers brushing lightly over the laptop her mother had placed on the side table, the keys cool under her touch as her mind raced, mapping out the steps that would turn observation into revelation. And in that frozen moment, surrounded by wealth that sought to intimidate and power that sought to belittle, she became acutely aware that sometimes the smallest hands could deliver the heaviest impact, that even a child's quiet move, executed with care and courage, could expose truths that had been hidden in plain sight for far too long. Lucy shifted slightly, keeping her small frame pressed against the corner where the afternoon light met the shadowed wall, the glittering chandeliers above catching each movement in 1,000 fractured reflections, while her mother, Margaret, continued her careful dance around the silver trays, dust motes floating in the beams of sunlight like tiny golden sparks, and Lucy could hear the quiet shuffle of assistant feet on the polished marble, the faint rustle of expensive fabric, the soft clinking of glasses as Richard Ellis discussed contracts with a few select colleagues, the words flowing over her like distant thunder, arrogant and dismissive. Yet she noticed the pauses, the way he tapped his pen and glanced at the documents, the misaligned dates, the signature smudges, the subtle differences that the untrained eye would overlook, and she thought of the countless evenings spent with her mother at their modest kitchen table, learning to observe, to listen, to notice the overlooked details, each scribble in her notebook a lesson in patience and precision, now culminating in this single moment where the fate of truth and dignity rested in her quiet hands. She inhaled deeply, the scent of polished leather and faint citrus from the cleaning sprays filling her senses, steadying her heart, her fingers hovering just above the laptop keys as she mapped out her next move with meticulous care, timing it perfectly with the ebb and flow of conversation around her, the chuckles of some assistants punctuating the air, oblivious to the impending revelation, Margaret's eyes briefly meeting hers with a subtle nod, a silent exchange of understanding and trust, reminding Lucy that she was not alone in this delicate task. And as she pressed enter, the laptop screen flickered, sending the carefully gathered evidence to the audit team, and the room, once filled with confidence and self-assurance, fell into a suspended pause, the conversations halting mid-word, eyes flicking to screens and emails, brows furrowed as the first hints of shock and comprehension began to ripple across the faces that had moments ago appeared untouchable. Lucy remained still, breathing quietly, her small stature now carrying the weight of a quiet, unassuming triumph, the kind that could not be taken by force or arrogance, only revealed through patience, intelligence, and a keen understanding of timing. While the golden sunlight continued to shimmer across the marble, gilding the edges of the Persian rugs, the crystal, the silver, each object a silent witness to the moment when a child's quiet awareness disrupted the poised arrogance of those who had underestimated her, and she felt a small, proud swell in her chest, knowing that. In the subtle click of keys, in the soft arrival of truth at the right eyes, she had turned the tide without a single raised voice, proving that observation, courage, and precision could outshine even the most confident displays of power. The room remained suspended in an almost tangible stillness, the golden sunlight stretching across the polished marble, glinting off the crystal chandeliers, and casting intricate patterns on the Persian rugs, while Lucy Thompson stood silently, a small figure framed by the corner of the room, her bright eyes fixed on the reactions unfolding before her. The once confident expressions of Richard Ellis and his assistants now shifting into disbelief and hurried murmurs, the email she had sent, revealing discrepancies, falsified data, and overlooked mistakes, each flicker on their screens like a drumbeat announcing the unraveling of carefully constructed arrogance. And Margaret, her mother, paused mid-step, silver tray balanced gracefully in her hands, sensing the subtle shift in the air, the quiet triumph that spread imperceptibly yet unmistakably through the room as the board members began to read, whispering to one another, their eyes widening, heads tilting, and slowly comprehending the gravity of what was revealed, the once smug and impervious Sohn now frozen, fingers resting on the mahogany table, the faint sheen of sweat on his forehead catching the sunlight, while Lucy's heart pounded in rhythm with the slow dawning awareness of everyone present, each detail she had observed, the misaligned dates, the smudged signatures, the inconsistencies in formatting, forming a tapestry that now exposed the truth with clarity. And as murmurs escalated into astonished exclamations, Lucy stepped lightly from the shadows, her small frame moving with the precision and quiet confidence she had learned from years of observation, the room's attention subtly pivoting as if drawn by an unseen current toward her, and she felt the gentle warmth of pride swell in her chest, not for herself, but for the vindication of her mother, who had endured condescension and silent judgment with dignity, the polished silver reflecting the sunlight, the crystal sparkling as if echoing the newly restored balance. And in that moment, Lucy realized how potent patience, intelligence, and careful observation could be, that the quietest actions, executed with calm precision, could resonate more profoundly than the loudest declarations. As the assistants whispered, the board members exchanged astonished glances, and Richard Ellis's eyes narrowed in realization, every polished detail of the penthouse bearing witness to the subtle shift of power and perception, while Lucy's small hands rested lightly on the laptop, a gentle reminder that truth, even when delivered softly, could command a room. And as the golden hour sunlight deepened, shadows stretching long across the marble, Lucy and Margaret shared a glance, a silent acknowledgment of the lessons learned, of patience rewarded, and of the quiet but undeniable force of integrity in a world accustomed to measuring value by wealth alone. As the room absorbed the shock of revelation, a hushed murmur spread through the board members, their eyes scanning the emails, each line unraveling the carefully constructed image of certainty that had dominated the penthouse just moments before, while Lucy Thompson remained poised, her small fingers still resting lightly on the laptop, heart steady yet alert, absorbing the subtleties of each reaction. The way Richard Ellis shifted in his chair, eyes narrowing as comprehension dawned, his usual confidence replaced by a rare hesitation, the assistants exchanging nervous glances, their polished shoes squeaking softly against the marble, and Margaret, her movements slower now, paused beside a silver tray, noticing the almost imperceptible change in the air, the golden sunlight falling across her hair and the gleaming crystal, highlighting the tension and the sudden quiet power of observation, while Lucy scanned the room, noting the precise angles of heads turning, the subtle gestures, the tiny shifts in posture, all signs that her silent actions were reshaping the dynamics of authority, the luxurious environment, with its Persian rugs, gold leaf accents, and polished surfaces, had transformed from a space of intimidation into a stage of subtle justice. The faint scent of lemon polish and polished leather intertwining with the delicate floral notes of perfume, creating an atmosphere both tense and mesmerizing. And as the minutes stretched, Lucy's awareness sharpened, seeing the interplay of emotion, pride, and fear flicker across the faces in the room. Her mother's quiet nod from across the floor reinforcing the bond of trust and shared understanding that had guided her every observation. And with another careful glance at the screen, Lucy recognized how each carefully documented detail, each small observation of misalignment and error, had compounded into a narrative undeniable in its clarity, rippling through the room with the weight of truth. And she felt the subtle thrill of control, not of domination but of exposure, the kind that brings accountability and recognition in its wake. The sunlight deepening to a warm amber glow, casting long, intricate shadows on the marble and gilded surfaces, while the atmosphere, once so rigid and oppressive, had transformed into a suspended moment of reflection and realization. And as Richard leaned back, the full import of what had been revealed settling over him, Lucy's eyes met Margaret's once more, a shared sense of quiet victory passing between them. And in that instant, the penthouse became more than a symbol of wealth and power. It became a testament to patience, insight, and the subtle yet unstoppable force of truth when wielded with courage and precision. Margaret exhaled slowly, her hands lingering on the edge of the silver tray as the subtle tension in the room began to dissolve, the initial shock on every face softening into curiosity and dawning realization. While Lucy Thompson remained poised, her small stature almost invisible against the backdrop of gleaming marble and golden sunlight, yet her presence commanded the attention of those who had underestimated her, the Persian rug beneath their feet seeming to shimmer in the warm afternoon light, crystal chandeliers casting fragmented reflections across the walls, and the air, tinged with the scent of lemon polish and faint perfume, carried the quiet sound of fingers tapping on screens, whispers exchanged in hurried tones, and the occasional intake of breath as the board members absorbed the clarity of the evidence now displayed, each discrepancy once hidden under layers of pretense now glaringly obvious. And Lucy, heart steady, watched as Richard Ellis adjusted in his chair, brow furrowed, eyes scanning the data with a mixture of disbelief and reluctant comprehension, the subtle shift in power palpable as the assistants exchanged glances that betrayed astonishment and unease. While Margaret stepped slightly closer to Lucy, their eyes meeting in a silent affirmation of courage and ingenuity, the sunlight catching strands of Lucy's hair and illuminating the quiet determination in her gaze. And as the room collectively absorbed the truth, a transformation occurred. The penthouse no longer simply a monument to wealth and authority, but a stage for integrity and insight. Every carefully polished surface, every reflective crystal, every golden accent witnessing the moment when meticulous observation and patient precision overcame arrogance and assumption. The atmosphere, once thick with expectation and dominance, now resonated with a new energy, subtle yet powerful, as the truth settled into its rightful place. And Lucy could feel the weight of the accomplishment, not in triumph over others, but in the quiet restoration of dignity and justice. The gentle hum of the air conditioning punctuating the soft shuffle of feet as people began to move, some still lingering over screens, others exchanging words that carried relief, amazement, and acknowledgment. And Margaret, placing a hand lightly on her daughter's shoulder, conveyed a mixture of pride and comfort, a recognition that the lessons of observation, patience, and thoughtful action had culminated perfectly, the sunlight deepening into warm amber, streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and casting long shadows across the gleaming marble. The entire scene harmonizing into a tableau that celebrated the subtle but undeniable force of intelligence and courage. And Lucy, standing silently, understood fully that, even in a world designed to intimidate and diminish, a carefully considered, quiet move could echo more loudly than any boast or assertion, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those who had witnessed it. And as the afternoon light waned, stretching across the Persian rugs and gilded surfaces, the room held a collective, reflective pause, a recognition of the shift that had quietly, yet irrevocably, occurred. Lucy Thompson watched as the room continued to adjust to the sudden revelation, her small frame perfectly still in the corner where the golden sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the Persian rugs and the polished marble that reflected each movement like liquid gold, while Margaret moved with quiet assurance, collecting the crystal glasses and silver trays, her hands steady and precise, a subtle smile crossing her face as she observed the ripple of reactions spreading among the board members, the assistants shifting nervously, their tailored shoes squeaking softly against the floor, and Richard Ellis, the CEO, sat frozen, eyes scanning the data and screens, attempting to reconcile the meticulous exposure with the image of control he had maintained moments before, the soft hum of air conditioning mixing with the faint rustle of papers and the occasional murmur of astonished whispers, as Lucy's gaze traveled across the room, noting each subtle gesture, every micro-expression, each flicker of emotion that betrayed surprise, apprehension, or reflection, the luxurious setting with its gold leaf accents, crystal chandeliers, and polished surfaces amplifying the weight of the moment, and she felt the quiet thrill of accomplishment, understanding that her patience, attention to detail, and precise timing had created a moment that could not be ignored. The interplay of light and shadow across the marble and rugs mirroring the shift in power from unchecked authority to measured accountability. And as the board members began discussing the implications of the evidence, heads nodding, eyes widening, and voices filled with controlled astonishment, Margaret's soft glance toward her daughter conveyed pride, trust, and reassurance, a recognition that Lucy's observant mind and calm composure had turned a tense situation into a revelation of clarity and justice, the scent of polished leather, faint perfume, and citrus lingering in the air, creating a sensory landscape that heightened the awareness of everyone present. While the golden afternoon sun cast long shadows that danced across the crystal and gold accents, emphasizing the subtle yet profound shift that had taken place, and Lucy, breathing slowly, felt the weight of the room's attention, not as a burden, but as confirmation that the quietest actions, executed with intelligence, patience, and courage, could resonate more powerfully than any overt display of authority. Her small hands resting lightly on the laptop, her eyes sweeping the room once more, observing the way the assistants whispered in hurried tones. The board members exchanged incredulous glances, and Richard Ellis's expression softened. A mixture of disbelief, contemplation, and reluctant respect, and in that suspended moment, the penthouse seemed to transform, no longer merely a symbol of wealth and control, but a stage for quiet strength, meticulous insight, and the profound impact of truth revealed with patience and precision. While Lucy's heart swelled with the understanding that even in the most imposing environments, the careful, silent measures of one small observer could bring clarity, accountability, and recognition, leaving an indelible impression on all who had witnessed the unfolding of events. The afternoon sunlight deepened, casting long, warm shadows across the gleaming marble floor and glinting off the crystal chandeliers as Lucy Thompson remained in her corner, small yet undeniably present, her eyes scanning the room with the keen awareness she had cultivated over years of observing her mother, Margaret, moving gracefully among the polished silver and glass, each step deliberate, each gesture precise, as the assistants whispered among themselves, their voices low, full of astonishment and growing respect, while Richard Ellis, the CEO, leaned back slightly, the earlier smugness replaced by a careful, almost reluctant attention, the emails and evidence Lucy had sent radiating a quiet power that rippled through the penthouse, with every notification ping and glint of reflection from the golden accents and polished surfaces, the Persian rugs beneath their feet absorbing sound and grounding the space in elegance, while amplifying the sense of tension now replaced by comprehension. And as Lucy observed the subtle shifts, the slight tilts of heads, the exchange of glances between board members, the tightening and relaxing of hands on screens and pens, she felt the intricate dance of human response, the unspoken acknowledgment of truth unraveling arrogance and entitlement, while Margaret, sensing the shift, paused near her daughter, offering a quiet, approving smile that conveyed trust, pride, and reassurance. The soft scent of lemon polish and faint floral perfume lingering in the air, blending with the warmth of sunlight that caught the strands of Lucy's hair, highlighting the serene determination in her expression. And with each passing second, the board members absorbed more of the details, the falsified data and inconsistencies laid bare, their whispered astonishments and exclamations punctuating the quiet authority Lucy wielded without sound. And Richard Ellis, his eyes scanning every line and every discrepancy, felt the weight of oversight and presumption dissolve, replaced by a newfound appreciation for patience, observation, and meticulous care. The room, once a stage for arrogance and unchecked power, now a tableau of quiet victory, integrity, and insight, every polished surface, reflective crystal, and gilded accent acting as witness to the subtle yet profound shift. And Lucy, small and silent, understood fully that her careful attention, her restraint, and her deliberate timing had created an impact far more enduring than any loud declaration could have achieved. As sunlight deepened to a rich amber glow, stretching across Persian rugs, marble, and gold leaf accents, the space itself transformed into a testament to the power of observation, the force of truth, and the extraordinary effect that quiet courage and precise action can have even in the most imposing of environments, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who had witnessed the unfolding, and reinforcing the lessons of integrity, patience, and subtle influence that she and Margaret had cultivated together. Lucy Thompson finally relaxed her small shoulders, the golden afternoon light bathing the penthouse in a warm glow that highlighted the crystal chandeliers and gilded accents, the polished marble reflecting every movement as if recording the moment, while Margaret moved beside her with measured grace, arranging the remaining silver trays and glassware with quiet dignity, her eyes briefly meeting Lucy's in a silent acknowledgment of the subtle victory they had achieved together. The assistants, now observing with newfound respect, murmuring softly among themselves, each word tinged with recognition of the precision and courage required to reveal the truth. And Richard Ellis, once the embodiment of confidence and unchecked authority, sat back slightly in his chair, taking in the full weight of the revelation, the emails, the inconsistencies, and the meticulous documentation laid bare across the screens. A mixture of contemplation and reluctant respect crossing his face. The room now, filled with an unusual quiet, broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the gentle clink of crystal as someone adjusted a glass. The luxurious environment, the Persian rugs, the polished marble, the gold leaf details, now serving as a backdrop for an unexpected moment of reflection and accountability. Lucy's eyes scanned the room once more, noting each subtle gesture, each flicker of surprise or acknowledgment, understanding that her careful observation and timely action had shifted the atmosphere from one of arrogance and dismissal to one of awareness and humility, the sunlight catching her hair and glinting off the polished surfaces, creating a mosaic of light and shadow that mirrored the shift in perception. And as Margaret gave a small, approving nod, Lucy felt the quiet swell of pride and satisfaction, knowing that their patience, insight, and precision had restored dignity not only to her mother, but to the space itself. The room transformed from a monument to wealth and power into a stage for the quiet triumph of truth, integrity, and intelligence, while the golden rays of the sun deepened into amber, stretching across marble and rug alike, emphasizing the enduring impact of careful, deliberate action. And Lucy, still small in stature, but vast in awareness, recognized that even the subtlest moves, executed with courage, observation, and patience, could resonate more profoundly than the loudest declarations, leaving a lasting impression on those who had witnessed the unfolding. As the penthouse settled into a reflective calm, the scent of lemon polish and faint perfume lingering in the air, a testament to the power of quiet determination, the force of intellect, and the transformative effect of truth revealed at precisely the right moment, creating a moment that would linger in memory long after the light faded and the room returned to its usual rhythm. Lucy Thompson took a careful step forward, her eyes steady as she observed the subtle reactions of everyone in the penthouse, the afternoon sunlight catching the edges of crystal chandeliers and gilded accents, casting intricate patterns across the polished marble floors and the Persian rugs beneath, while Margaret moved beside her, quietly collecting the remaining silver trays and arranging the glassware with practiced precision, their movements synchronized in a silent understanding. The assistants now watching with wide eyes, murmuring softly as they processed the rapid shift from confidence to astonishment, and Richard Ellis, the CEO, leaned back in his chair, his face reflecting a mix of disbelief and tentative respect, the emails and detailed observations Lucy had sent unraveling the pretense that had once dominated the room. The scent of lemon polish and faint floral perfume mingling with the warmth of sunlight to create an almost tangible atmosphere of reflection, while Lucy's attention traveled from one board member to another, noting each gesture, each slight widening of eyes, each whispered exchange, understanding that her patient observation and careful action had altered the dynamics of power without a word raised, and Margaret's hand rested lightly on Lucy's shoulder, a gesture of reassurance and pride, the quiet bond between mother and daughter amplifying the impact of Lucy's actions. The light shifting across gold leaf, crystal, and marble, emphasizing the transformation of the room from a space of intimidation and unchecked authority into a stage of recognition, awareness, and accountability. While every polished surface reflected the moment in subtle brilliance, the assistants now straightening posture and glancing at one another with muted respect, the board members leaning over their screens, nodding slowly, grasping the meticulous documentation and its implications, and Richard Ellis, finally absorbing the full weight of what had been revealed aloud. A small exhale of acknowledgment, his rigid posture softening as comprehension replaced incredulity, the space once defined by opulence and unchallenged hierarchy, now resonating with a quiet triumph of insight and integrity. Lucy, standing small yet formidable in her calm observation, felt the resonance of her actions spread throughout the room, understanding that the patient, precise, and thoughtful measures she had taken created a ripple that could not be ignored, the sunlight deepening to amber and stretching across the Persian rugs and polished surfaces, highlighting the shift from authority unchecked to truth observed. As Margaret gave a subtle nod of approval, Lucy's quiet satisfaction mirrored in her mother's steady gaze, and in that suspended moment, the penthouse transformed from a symbol of dominance into a testament to the power of observation, intelligence, and patience, leaving a lasting impression on all who had witnessed the unfolding and reinforcing the understanding that even the smallest, quietest actions, executed with clarity and care, could resonate with a force far greater than any loud or forceful gesture. The room holding a collective, reflective pause as the golden light continued to shimmer over crystal, gold, and marble, a silent acknowledgment of the subtle but profound shift that had occurred under Lucy's careful guidance. The atmosphere in the penthouse shifted further as the golden sunlight streamed across the polished marble floors, glinting off the crystal chandeliers and gilded accents, casting long, intricate shadows over the Persian rugs where Lucy Thompson stood small but unwavering, her eyes scanning the room with meticulous attention, noting every flicker of expression, every subtle movement, while Margaret moved quietly beside her, gathering silver trays with calm precision, their shared glance carrying an unspoken understanding of the impact that had been made, the assistants murmuring softly among themselves, glances darting towards screens as the carefully documented evidence continued to unfold across laptops and tablets, each line, each misalignment, each inconsistency now unmistakably revealing the truth. Richard Ellis, seated in his leather chair, leaned back slightly, the earlier confidence replaced by a mixture of disbelief and contemplative respect, the hum of the air conditioning and the faint clink of crystal punctuating the tense, reflective silence, while Lucy's small hands rested lightly on the laptop, her heartbeat steady as she observed the quiet ripple of realization spreading through the board members, heads nodding slowly, eyes widening as they grasped the scope of what had been unveiled, the luxurious environment, gold leaf accents, polished surfaces, and sunlight catching every reflective surface, acting as a silent witness to the subtle yet profound shift in dynamics. Margaret's hand brushing lightly against Lucy's shoulder, a reassuring presence, reinforcing the bond and trust that had guided the young girl's precise actions. And as each person in the room processed the revelation, the tension softened into a reflective calm, the sunlight deepening to amber, highlighting the intricate patterns on the marble and rugs, the polished crystal and gold, all contributing to a tableau that spoke of clarity, integrity, and the quiet power of observation. While Lucy felt the steady surge of quiet pride and accomplishment, recognizing that patience, diligence, and careful attention to detail could reshape perception and restore balance, the assistants now straightening, eyes filled with newfound respect, the board members leaning closer to screens, exchanging muted words of astonishment and comprehension, and Richard Ellis, finally absorbing the full weight of the exposure, allowed himself a measured exhale. His expression softened, a mixture of respect and contemplation as he regarded both Margaret and Lucy, and the room, once dominated by unchecked authority and confident presumption, now resonated with acknowledgment, reflection, and the subtle force of truth. While the afternoon light bathed crystal, marble, and gilded surfaces in a warm, amber glow, emphasizing that even the smallest, quietest actions, executed with patience, insight, and courage, could leave an indelible impression and quietly, irrevocably, shift the course of perception and understanding within the most imposing of environments. The penthouse settled into a calm, reflective atmosphere as Lucy Thompson remained poised in her corner, small yet commanding through her quiet presence, the sunlight deepening to a soft amber as it streamed through the expansive windows, casting elongated shadows across the polished marble and Persian rugs, while Margaret moved with measured grace, adjusting crystal glasses and silver trays with delicate precision, the assistants now exchanging whispered acknowledgments and subtle glances, their expressions a mixture of awe and newfound respect. And Richard Ellis, seated in his leather chair, absorbed the unfolding consequences with a slow, deliberate comprehension. His posture softened from rigid authority to contemplative attention, every flicker of emotion captured by the reflective surfaces and gilded accents, the intricate play of light on crystal and marble amplifying the gravity of the moment. While Lucy's attentive eyes scanned the room, noting the nuanced shifts, the subtle acknowledgement in the nods of board members, the small, almost imperceptible breaths of realization, and the quiet gestures of those who had once dismissed her presence, the evidence she had released spreading through screens and whispers, reinforcing the meticulous nature of her observation and the power of timing, Margaret's steady hand on her daughter's shoulder, grounding her in shared purpose and trust, as the soft hum of the air conditioning and the gentle clink of crystal punctuated the otherwise silent room, and the golden light continued to bathe the space in warmth, emphasizing the transformation from a scene of unchallenged dominance to one of reflective justice, where careful attention and integrity had reshaped perception, where the arrogance of unchecked authority had been softened by the quiet, deliberate force of truth. And Lucy, standing small yet firm, felt the weight of her actions ripple through the room, recognizing that the culmination of patience, insight, and precise observation had not only restored dignity to her mother, but had left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of everyone present. As the sunlight cast rich amber reflections across the Persian rugs, gilded surfaces, and crystal, illuminating the subtle triumphs of careful action and measured courage, while the assistants straightened, nodding with silent understanding. Board members whispered with astonishment, and Richard Ellis, finally allowing a small exhale, regarded both Margaret and Lucy with a quiet respect. The luxurious environment transformed from a monument to unchallenged wealth into a space honoring insight, patience, and the extraordinary impact of a single, observant, and determined mind, leaving the penthouse charged with a calm, yet powerful recognition of integrity and thoughtful action that would resonate long after the sunlight faded and the golden hour shifted into evening. As the evening sun began to sink behind the skyline, casting a golden-orange glow across the polished marble floors and gilded accents of the penthouse, Lucy Thompson stood quietly, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the fading light, while she observed the subtle movements of everyone around her. The assistants straightening with newfound poise, whispering in subdued tones as they processed the shift that had occurred, and Margaret, moving gracefully with the quiet strength that had defined her. Work adjusted the last of the silver trays, her gaze occasionally meeting Lucy's with a mixture of pride and shared understanding, the crystal chandeliers catching the last rays of sunlight, scattering prisms of light across the Persian rugs, and the polished surfaces echoing the delicate murmurs of astonishment and reflection. Richard Ellis, seated in his leather chair, leaned back, his expression softened, contemplation etched across his face, his earlier arrogance tempered by recognition of the precision, courage, and insight displayed by the young girl. As board members and colleagues continued to absorb the meticulously documented evidence, the emails, the inconsistencies, each detail revealing not only the depth of oversight but also the quiet competence of observation, and Lucy, small yet commanding through her calm presence, felt the resonance of her actions, understanding how patience, careful attention, and deliberate timing had reshaped perception, restored dignity, and subtly rebalanced the power in the room, the soft hum of the air conditioning mingling with the faint clinking of crystal and silver, while the warm scent of lemon polish and subtle floral notes lingered in the air, adding to the sensory weight of the moment. And as the sun finally dipped lower, bathing the penthouse in deep amber, the reflections on marble, gold leaf, and crystal created a tableau of subtle triumph and quiet justice. The room transformed from a display of wealth and authority into a stage for integrity, insight, and thoughtful action, and Lucy, still observing every nuance, recognized that the culmination of careful observation, patience, and courage had created a moment that would linger in memory long after the sunlight had faded, a testament to the extraordinary impact of quiet determination and precision, a reminder that true strength and influence could come from the most unassuming places. And as the shadows lengthened, stretching across the Persian rugs and polished surfaces, the penthouse held a reflective stillness, every detail a witness to the power of intellect, observation, and integrity, leaving an enduring impression on all who had experienced the quiet transformation and reinforcing the lesson that even the smallest, most careful actions, executed with thoughtfulness and courage, could echo far beyond their immediate presence, shaping perception, restoring dignity, and revealing the profound effect of patience and intelligence in the face of complacency and assumption. The penthouse was now bathed in the soft, fading light of early evening, the golden amber of the sun casting long, gentle shadows across the polished marble floors, Persian rugs, and gilded accents, creating an atmosphere of calm reflection, while Lucy Thompson stood quietly, her small frame still and observant, eyes glinting with a mixture of satisfaction and awareness as she watched the subtle transformations in the room, Margaret moving with quiet assurance beside her, adjusting crystal and silver with the elegance and dignity that had guided them through the day, the assistants now shifting with newfound respect, whispering softly, their expressions a blend of astonishment and recognition, while Richard Ellis, seated with deliberate stillness, absorbed the full weight of the evidence that had reshaped the room's dynamics, his posture softened, his eyes thoughtful, the earlier arrogance tempered by acknowledgment of the precision, patience, and intelligence displayed by the young girl, and Lucy, noticing every micro-expression, every slight nod and exchange of glance, felt the quiet power of observation and careful action ripple through the space, the sunlight catching her hair, reflecting off polished surfaces and crystal, turning the room into a tableau of subtle triumph and restored dignity, while the soft hum of air conditioning and occasional clink of glass punctuated the stillness, reinforcing the gravity and serenity of the moment. And as the board members leaned closer to screens, whispering astonishment and recognition of the meticulously documented discrepancies, Margaret's hand rested lightly on Lucy's shoulder, a gesture of reassurance, pride, and shared triumph, highlighting the bond that had guided their actions and the extraordinary impact of careful, patient observation. The luxurious environment that had once symbolized unchecked wealth and authority, now standing as a stage for integrity, insight, and quiet courage, every golden accent, polished marble surface, and crystal shard a witness to the subtle yet profound transformation. While the assistant straightened, moving with quiet confidence and newfound respect, Richard Ellis allowing himself a slow, reflective breath, acknowledging the intelligence, timing, and courage that had silently shifted the power of perception in the room, and Lucy, standing small yet formidable, felt the resonance of her actions, understanding that true influence did not require loud assertion, only careful observation, patience, and precise timing. The amber light of the setting sun painting the Persian rugs, marble, and gilded surfaces with a warm glow, emphasizing that even the smallest, quietest actions, executed thoughtfully and courageously, could ripple outward to create lasting change, leave an indelible impression on those who witnessed it, and reinforce the enduring truth that integrity, insight, and careful attention to detail are often the most powerful forces in any environment, quietly transforming it into a space where dignity, awareness, and the subtle triumph of wisdom are recognized and remembered.